How's it going?
It's good, man. It's good, man. Good to be back.
Good to see you again. It's good to see you again.
I mean, I saw you today already, bro.
Goddamn.
Goddamn.
Okay, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of Kaleidospoke. It is December 2020 as we're recording this, and yeah, we're back. We got more in the tank. More in the tank to deliver. Hope you enjoyed episode 1. If you didn't listen, be sure to check that out. We cover some groundwork, some interesting topics, crypto. What else did we cover?
We covered the Mike Tyson fight in Thriller, and
Mike Tyson.
We also covered the UK high street with the whole, Corona stuff.
COVID smashing the high street to pieces.
Just capitulation on the high street.
Lots of capitulation, no returns. Yeah. So here we are, episode 2, and we've got some interesting topics today. And it's I think you'll enjoy it. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go straight into it. Straight for the kill.
So obviously, as you know, this is a podcast. We created another podcast. There's a lot of podcasts out there. I don't know why you're listening to this one, but thanks for listening if you are. But there was an article that we kind of both read recently, and it kind of sparks like an interesting conversation between us, right? It is around this lady being worried about her listening to too many podcasts, binge listening, overconsumption. And I thought, wow, I had to share this. I was like, this could be me. This might be me. Now, I'm a man. I love podcasts. I love information, and there's just so much out there. And even I said it to you, right? I was like, this is kind of worrying. Like, I think I'm an addict. That's what I said. And as I said, there's so many interesting conversations happening, so much out there that there's not enough time in the day to consume it all. And so this article is saying she's listening to like 35 hours of podcasts for the week or per week, and she's worried. And I thought it'd just be an interesting conversation because I feel like I'm in that same circle. Like this is like Podcast Anonymous. This is, and I think many people might be in this same boat. So let's talk about it.
I mean, look.
Let's talk about it.
We might even be perpetuating the addictions of other people by having a podcast of our own, right?
Goddamn, cut.
Please sponsor us. Everyone who's going to sponsor us, please sponsor us.
Stop listening right now.
Yeah.
Stop listening.
Yeah, but so we read the article together, and you mentioned that, it was like, oh my God, maybe I'm an addict. And I wasn't feeling the same way. I listened to a ton of podcasts.
Of course not.
Yeah,
that's what they'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an addict. You're crazy. I listened to a few podcasts, quite a few, but me, man. Joe Rogan is he's my hero, number one, and number two, he's pretty much like North Star for me. Like even in creating this podcast, or just in the way of being. He's this guy. So when I thought about like my own opinions, so this article, we read it, and then it caused me to think about my own opinions and how much my opinions are my own, or are they just an amalgamation of like all these other opinions that I hear all the time from other podcasts, And it's quite interesting to think, because sometimes I open my mouth and I reflect and I hear somebody else talking as I'm talking, and this probably is when you are doing overconsumption, So then, it struck a chord with me too, bro. I was like, oh, damn, is this me as well?
That's it. But is it worrying? Like, should it be worrying? Is it overconsumption? Is it a byproduct of overconsumption, or is it just, if it's like if you have your parents and you're around your parents, then or the saying of you're the average of the 5 friends that you hang around with most.
Right.
And so, and I like that, because it's like, okay, well, if I don't have people in my circle which are elevating or which are being positive, I've got books that I can refer to, and they can guide me. Like if it's a biography or something like that, or there's a podcast out there and they're saying interesting stuff that I can just learn from and grow from. So there's two sides to this. It's like there's a negative side of overconsumption, but then there's a positive side of it's giving me another perspective.
Sure.
And the thing is, with that perspective, it could be a double-edged sword, because it could be negative and like an echo chamber almost, and a rabbit hole, where you're feeding these algorithms which are like giving you these recommendations based on what you listened before, and you're feeding yourself so much into this, like this one myopic kind of view that it could be dangerous. But then on the other side, and again, it depends on your consumption, it could be balanced, it could be informative, it could be great, because you listening to Joe Rogan probably gives you a lot of insight, and that's why he's so great and very popular, because he has all this diverse thinking and diverse thought leaders and people, interesting people on the podcast, that just by product of you listening, you kind of have it shapes your thought, but that may not be negative.
Sure. So I think it probably then boils down to what it is you're consuming, you know? So there's a ton of information on the internet, and okay, we'll try and keep this along the lines of podcasts. There's a ton of podcasts along all spectrums of human conversation. So, you know, you can listen to, I don't want to mention any podcast in a negative light, but you might listen to a podcast that is effectively gossip, you know, and you know, and if this is consuming your day and consuming your thoughts, you can see how an overconsumption of that will then create a kind of like potentially a negative outcome for you in your actual life, you know. Whereas maybe if you're listening to podcasts that do things to maybe perpetuate your life goals, if it's, you know, podcasts and you've got the likes of people like David Goggins who are just savages about getting their goals done, you know, like these types of characters could inspire you. So you might get addicted to being inspired, which might not necessarily be a bad thing, you know.
Yeah.
Especially if it drives good results. So, you know, addiction in itself, I understand what you're saying. Addiction in itself is hard to see in a positive light. You know, it's
the word has negative connotations, right? Addiction.
But even in itself, it's like the idea that you cannot live without this thing, or your life, because, you know, you have, without this thing, there's a highly detrimental kind of like force in your life without this thing, then that's a negative thing. That's the negative thing about addiction. But I guess when you dig deeper, you kind of think about, you know, what is it that I'm addicted to? You know, people are addicted to the gym because of the endorphins. You know, being addicted to the gym is not necessarily the worst addiction you can have out there. You know, the idea that you're addicted could be a problem, but actually, you know, the thing you're addicted to is not really a problem. It's kind of a good thing.
Absolutely. And I think you know, I think but it's interesting how this is all, you know, and it converges, and the kind of travel that it's all going on, that it's going to, because, you know, I kind of mentioned this before, but you know, it's like, are we more digitally extroverted and physically introverted? Like, is this stuff, because I don't mind just chilling out and listening to a podcast, you know, Spotify and chill, or I don't mind, you know, maybe, you know, cooking in the kitchen and just putting on a podcast, and I kind of want that. I don't mind cooking because I have the podcast to listen to, or a YouTube video or something like that. So it's like we're kind of, and in a way, there's could be a lot of people, but we're digitally social, but physically elusive or recluse. Do you know what I mean? It's that's the other aspect of it, which could be negative. So it may not be the negative, the information that you're consuming, but it's what behaviors are forming as a part of this, you know, this non-stop or this relentless consumption of podcasts or video, or you know, just stimulation.
Sure. I mean, I guess then, then you got this kind of real importance on silence. Do you know what I mean? Like silence, application of some of these opinions that you've heard or some of this information that you've heard. You have to potentially apply it to real life to see if it actually has any real value to you.
Mm.
And I think in doing that, then you could start to silence that desire to hear everything.
Mm.
Because some of these things you're applying and maybe they're in the real world or your life experiences, it has no bearing. So then
Mm.
that way you kind of maybe potentially curb your addiction because you're like, some
Mm.
of this stuff that I'm listening to, I can't actually use, you know?
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
but again, man, look, I like to think about how hypersensitive the human mind is. It's actually ridiculous. It's like
Very.
like the frames, the visual frames that we see daily, like all the time, and what we're hearing, it kind of shapes the perception of ourselves and the world. And like the more influence you're getting visually and by audio, is kind of like it determines your conscious interaction with the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then multiply it by like 10 million, and now that's your subconscious interaction with the world. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So,
Mm.
in over consuming, you could potentially lose track of your kind of, I don't know, your perception of self or your perception of the world. And actually, in reality, you need at least one of those things to be quite solid to get through,
Mm.
you know?
Mm.
So you can see but it's so easy. It's so easy. You've got a phone. We all got phones. We can just listen to somebody that makes
Yeah.
sense to us and and maybe ignore the real people that are around us and kind of substitute them with people in the sky, but still
Yeah.
are saying the same things that you would like to hear and potentially might
You
learn
want to
from.
hear?
Yeah,
Yeah. This
yeah.
positive monologue, it's reinforcing monologue.
Mhm.
And and yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, you you know about Exit Group, right? You're an Exit Group man.
I think I created that group.
It's like Aaron Exit Group. But yeah, you can do that, in many groups, friend groups that you're with, or what have you, in the WhatsApp group, Exit Group, and then just go listen to your podcast because actually, these people are talking sense that you want to listen to,
Yeah,
and it resonates. That's as simple as it is. Like, you don't. I think people have less patience these days as well, and there's no need. There's so many options out there. There's no need to put up with stuff that you don't really want to listen to,
yeah,
don't want to be around.
yeah,
Like, you can change it very quickly.
yeah,
That's why getting like brands and fans are so fickle. Do you know what I mean? Friends are perhaps even more fickle, arguably. Do you know
arguably.
what I mean? So it's crazy. And the funny thing is, I was thinking about this.
Yeah,
I remember the days where there was only 4 channels on the TV, right? And it was a big thing when Channel 5 came on, and now we just have this crazy amount of just options. Like, it's like the paradox of choice. There's a book called The Paradox
yeah,
of Choice, and it's like the more choice you have, the more sort of paralyzed you feel because you're
yeah.
just like, shit, this is so much to consume.
Sure.
And even I think even my main guy, big up Elon Musk, he's man, like, he's trying to create this sort of Neuralink company, which is, he basically said, well, I think it was on Joe Rogan, we have a bandwidth problem. Like,
Mhm.
there's so much out there, but us as humans, we can only intake and ingest a certain amount of info. So he's trying to solve that problem, but it's so true. That's why we're always trying to catch up. But I'd say, podcasts are great, but only subscribe to this one.
Just this one.
That's
This one.
just Kaleidospoke.
This one should be your main podcast for the rest of your life.
I
And
think so.
I think all the sponsors just buy all the stuff, basically. But yeah,
Oh gosh.
it's hey man, this is such a kind of like on the ball topic, given that we just started the podcast, right?
podcast.
It's another one. DJ Khaled, another one. But yeah, man. It's.
I think it's great. As I say, like we're in a time of just abundance, and for us, it's kind of like, what do we do with that abundance?
Yeah.
Like, is there a balance? And it needs, and people need to find balance. There's no manual. There's no manual to this. So it's like everyone just needs to try and navigate around which and find balance in everything.
Sure.
I think I was listening to some videos today about yin and yang, right? Without up, there's no down. Without left, there's no right. Without cold, there's no hot. Without us, there's no you. Or
I don't know about that. Without no podcast listeners.
Exactly.
But yeah. I mean, everything is a balance, and actually, this is quite ironic. Just thinking about it now, given the amount of podcasts we listen to, we started our own podcast to kind of balance the idea that actually maybe we've learned so much from some of the podcasts that we listen to. It's probably time that we share some of this in a more kind of like succinct fashion, so that maybe whoever's listening to this might be like, oh wow, like I can hear, if potentially they listen to all the podcasts we listen to, they would hear a little bit of Joe Rogan or Sam Harris or Authority Hack, or they might start to see how we are kind of excreting our podcast waste on you guys.
Wow. Let's take that out.
Take that out.
Let's take that out.
Take that out.
Cut
that. God damn.
This isn't how we rehearse this.
Yeah, bro, we already started on the red wine. It's happening, the juices are flowing, as they say.
Jammy red. It's all about jammy red.
That's how it goes.
All right.
Yeah. Moving on.
Cool. So
let's move on.
Moving on.
Yeah.
What are we talking about next? The la cocaína. Well, okay, so more context.
La cocaína.
La cocaína. Sí.
Yeah.
So this is basically Colombia is looking, well, Colombia, there's certain people in Colombia, certain sort of senators in Colombia that want to legalize cocaine.
Right.
To tackle the drug trafficking that my man Pablo Escobar was definitely a key part of.
Many others.
Yeah, many others.
So look, let me give you some background on this, right?
Please.
I will do. So earlier on this year, the opposition party have proposed a bill to legalize cocaine in Colombia by effectively taking control of coca production and therefore cocaine production. And it's in an effort to potentially reduce the power of undesirable groups, and potentially give the government control of the massive wealth that cocaine exploitation brings to Colombia, as opposed to going into the hands of unscrupulous criminals. We won't mention any names. So it's mad because Colombia is close to my heart and potentially yours. We that's an amazing place. It's an amazing place.
Love it.
Buried as a big part of my heart in that place. And it's funny because many people have this perception. If you've never been, you have this perception that Colombia is like some episode of Narcos. Do you know what I mean? You go there and you can get blown up at any minute because whoever's the cartel in charge is willing to blow up civilians to make a point, and there's gunfights on the street and that. But in reality, it's nothing like that at all. It's
no.
There was moments walking around at 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, and meeting Colombian people that potentially can't even speak English, and Ricky, your Spanish is terrible, so it was unlikely that we was ever going to get anything out of them via you.
That's not quite true. That's not quite true. That's fake news. That's fake news, as Trump would say. It must be, what's your name? CNBC.
But look, the people are lovely. The people are lovely. The place is lovely. Everything is safe. And actually, I think the place is safe because the government and the cartels are not at war, and the cartels are not at war with people. Oh, we're not at war, sorry, with each other. So this creates like this great time, like in my opinion, there's nothing wrong, and this is maybe a controversial opinion. There's nothing really wrong with selling drugs. They're going to get sold for as long as there's a demand for them. Now, the issue becomes when society has to devolve because of that process, and I think potentially the government are trying to get a handle on this and be like, well, look, maybe if we control how our number one export, by the way, is being produced and then sold on. If we control it, then potentially we control how Colombia is seen in the world and how people feel when they come to Colombia. The thing that I think that might be a bit dangerous, and this is where the problem may come, is that there's a lot of cartels that potentially could lose out on this. But corruption in a place like Colombia is top to bottom. Do you know what I mean? It's unlikely. It's unlikely, truly, that even if the government legalized it, that cartels wouldn't be behind that anyway. So I
think even I read that there's like of cousins and sort of relatives of like Pablo Escobar is even in politics as well. So there's a lot of them just embedded within the system. So it's like, and they're all fully like right wing type people. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. Why would you be left wing when you've been making a ton of money?
They are the top of the top capitalists.
Yeah.
For me, I think this is an interesting thing. It's not the same. Cause I was trying to draw parallels to Holland and how they sort of legalized cannabis, and it's not quite the same because it's not been at that level of kind of crime and to the level of Escobar, and murders and all that kind of stuff. So it's not quite the same as legalizing weed and everybody having coffee shops.
Sure.
This is kind of big money and big interest involved. So and there's been efforts from Colombia. They've tried to these little farmers but these farmers in Colombia that are producing these coca farmers, they're just farmers generally, right? But they want the most money for the land that they can farm on, and that comes from coca because it just grows like weed out there. It's just like it's so easy to grow and cultivate, and I think the Colombian government have even had sort of many schemes to try to subsidize them or encourage them not to grow coca and give them subsidies to grow something else. But it's just not enough. Like there's just not enough backing. There's not enough money. It takes time, and a lot of these farms are entrenched and also very much in the rural parts, like proper bush / Amazon jungle, exactly. Which is kind of uncontrollable in a state within itself. And again, that goes to what you said. Like when we was going in Cartagena and Bogota, you don't necessarily see all of that. And you went to Medellin after as well. And I don't know if you necessarily see all that, but a lot of this stuff happens, in the outskirts, and way out. So, yeah, I mean, I think to try to grapple it, it's a good effort. I doubt they're anywhere close to doing that. I think this is too much of a stronghold, to kind of get this through. And conceptually, I don't know what other country has legalized cocaine production for medical use, but because I was trying to think of a Is there a country which has done this before as precedents and it's worked?
Well, let me stop you. Like, what a lot of people don't know is that there is a certain percentage of cocaine that leaves Colombia for medicinal purpose legally. So I think there's this misconception that actually all the cocaine that comes out of Colombia is to fund drug cartels that are unscrupulous that go around killing kids. Do you know what I mean? There's a ton of cocaine and products of cocaine that are used in every day. You go to a dentist, how do you think they numb your teeth they numb your gums when you got a tooth removed? I can't remember the name of the thing. It's Rodacaine or something.
But it's not cocaine, yeah?
It's not cocaine, but it's a product of.
Right.
So,
right.
So there is a market for medicinal cocaine. And I think this is, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is legal in Colombia. Well, to export for medicinal use. So, man, it's a crazy one. It's a crazy one. The thing that I think about mainly is just for the Colombian people, the government and the cartels. They're not different entities. Do you know what I mean? It's the same. It's pretty much the same entity. They're entrenched and corrupt. In order for something to work, corruption generally has to at least be perceived at a low level. And in Colombia, it's not like that at all. It's not like that. I mean, I'll give you a story. There was one time, the last time I went, I was out there. I made a friend, and myself and her, we decided to have a cheeky little spliff at the edge of some water somewhere. Police found us, and it was her. It was her weed, so she's hidden it in her bra, whatever. Anyway, because they are sharp, there's a policewoman. Sorry, there's a policewoman. So she decides to search her, finds the weed, and then threatens my friend. Like, look, man, we're gonna have to look at your passport, and we're gonna have to put a stamp in your passport to say you can't come here. She was American. You can't come here because you've broken our laws, XYZ.
Oh wow.
So anyway, they said, all right, we'll take you to your hostel. You can get your passport and all of that. Anyway, so we've gone around the corner. The most dubious corner of all time. I've never seen a corner so dubious. It was like this corner.
Why?
This corner, either we're gonna get killed. We're gonna get killed.
Or get whacked.
They're just not gonna be there. One of the two. Anyway, we got around the corner. The police have said, all right, look, how much money do you have? And they've basically fleeced us for our money. And on top of that, they gave the weed back. Now, what's interesting? The interesting thing is
shakedown.
It was a shakedown, and the interesting thing is that they gave the weed back. And the reality is, weed has been decriminalized in Colombia since 2016.
Right. So and this was what year?
2018. I was there. So right. It's like it was totally legal. Is a strong term. But we were within our rights to possess it. You don't get fined for it. But then,
or a stamp.
Yeah, but then it shows to the original point of corruption. Do you know what I mean? Like this is corruption at the very lowest level. Like why would you think that cocaine that grosses such a high yield for that country and the world in general? Would the government is actually the ones behind it? It's probably people that are, out for themselves, and with big money, I'd imagine, you got some cartels that are there. So, I can't imagine the cartels would allow this to happen without some real resistance, like
of course not.
Can't imagine it. So, but hey, again, it's an interesting country. They're trying to work it out. Tourism there is high. Even right now, I've got friends saying, "Oh, come over, it's popping." Like come now,
nice.
Come now, yeah. And so it's definitely a place that's on the up. So whatever they do, I've got a real big part of my heart that belongs to Colombia. So as long as the people are okay and it works out, I'm happy, man. Whatever it ends up to be, you know. Yeah.
Legal or not legal, and we all established that in the last episode, right? If you didn't check that out, be sure to listen back. But you where you want to be when you're 70 years old.
I said
right there.
I said Cancun actually.
Oh snap! You did.
I did say Cancun. But you know,
why would you say Cancun?
The reason I said Cancun because 70. Well, it was actually talking about 80. 80. It was 50 years from now, which I'd be 50.
80.
52. Sorry, I'd be 82. My bad. But I think between 60 and 82, I'd probably be in Colombia. So
so Mexico would be like your just kind of winding down.
End goal. You know, like, I don't need any stress. Sometimes in Colombia, it can get stressful. Do you know what I mean? 60 to 82, I can handle it. But like Cancun, I want to relax, you know?
I've never known that. Someone to go Cancun to relax and retire. That's interesting.
You know, I'm sure you'll find them out there if you decide to go, mate.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll try and find you.
Yeah, you'll find me. I mean, I think as per last episode, you said you'll still be checking Bitcoin or something like that, right?
I'll be on the moon.
With your own rocket.
Me and Richard Branson. He will be alive.
No, he's been gone long time.
He'll be gone. Unless
with his money, he decides to buy immortality. Boom.
Can we do that?
I can't. You can't. But maybe he can.
Reincarnation, or just be frozen and or another body transplant. Body transplant.
I mean, I wish I could. I tried to do it with my son, but it's not exactly the same. I've realized, you know, he's his own person.
You can't do that with your son because you know you have to displace him, right? So you kind of need to have something that's.
I need
a body which you don't care about.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, have you ever seen Altered Carbon on Netflix?
No.
Oh man, this show is about basically exactly what you're talking about. People have skins, so their body is like a skin, but their brain is almost like a transferable chip that you can take from skin to skin. So it's pretty much what you're talking about. You know, like you've got your mind and your brain, and you just kind of insert it into a new skin. And sometimes this, depending on how much money you got, the skins can have special abilities. You know, like some could be like combat ready, some could be super sexy, whatever it is. So, hey man, hey, the future's bright.
I think you know, and a lot of these films and sort of sci-fi films, it feels like it's coming. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's maybe not in our lifetime, maybe 50 years time. Look, a lot can happen.
Look, man, look.
So
I can give you.
I'm ready.
I can give you a clear example as to why it could probably happen in our lifetime. On Star Trek, old Star Trek, they were using iPads. Let that sink in. Old Star Trek, old. When I mean old, super old, they were using iPads. So just let that sink in.
Prophecy has spoken.
No. Simpsons is the prophecy.
What was that thing? They predicted COVID in 1995 or something like that.
God knows. You know, if it's Simpsons, I believe
Mr. Burns.
Yeah, if it's Simpsons, I believe it. You know, they get everything right. You know.
Oh gosh.
Hey,
Back to the Future.
Hey man.
Hey Marty.
We might all be in a simulation, man. It might be all be done before. Who knows?
What was that thing where it's 51% believable? Or everything 51% real?
So okay, all right, fine. So everything in life is like 51% or 49%. It's either probably or probably not. You know, like
so if you get run over,
yeah,
that's 51% that happened, 49% that didn't.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
Because someone like myself would say that's 100% has happened because I'm in Guy's Hospital with a broken leg.
Hey man, it might not be you. It could just be your digital version of self. I don't know.
Right.
It might not be you.
Right.
It might not be you.
And then we woke up.
Yeah, then we woke up, you know, and we started a podcast.
So on that note,
Yep.
If you woke up tomorrow morning,
and
found out you had 10 years to live, what would you stop doing?
You know what I like about this question, because when I first came across this question, when we were going to present it here, I looked at it and I kind of stopped reading halfway through. You know, when you read something and you think, okay, I know what the rest of the question is, because half of it is like, I've heard this question a billion times. And the question that I thought it was like, if you got 10 years left to do, if you had 10 years left, if you knew you had 10 years left, what would you do those 10 years? And actually, that's not the question. The question is, what would you stop doing? Right. And it caused me to think. I was like, oh shit, man, like this is actually a hard question. You know, like what would I stop doing if I?
It's easy to say what would you start doing, but to say what do you stop doing?
So I had to really think about it, man.
Dig deep.
I came up with some things, but understand. Okay. I want everybody who's listening to this to understand, including you, bro, that it took me some time. It took me some time because I actually really, 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 really like myself.
There's nothing I would stop doing because I'm so perfect.
I had to search. I had to find a way to make the perfection imperfect. Do you know what I
mean? Listen, without perfection, there's no imperfection. So or with perfection, there's no imperfection.
It's the same. That's the same.
Yin and yang. You know what I mean?
It's all the same. So I came up with a few things, and I think one of the things I'd stop doing, I'd stop my social media consumption. I'd probably stop that. I'd probably just like, you know what? I know this is a waste of time. Like, let me just knock that on the head, because and to be fair, versus many people, my social media consumption is minimal. I don't have any of the apps on my phone. I've got Instagram on my phone, but my Instagram is pretty much a diary, my own diary. And I don't follow anyone, and only a few people follow me. And I'm just making it there because I actually lost the diary that I wrote in. So I thought, man, actually, maybe I need a digital version of a diary.
A digital diary.
Yeah. So on my feed, nothing comes up. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just whatever. The last person who nothing comes up, to be fair. So like my social media consumption is pretty minimal. However, I do have an Instagram that is like my other personal Instagram. And then
how you pre? Is this how you do pre?
Some stuff. Yeah. And I don't do it often, but
snooping around.
I don't do it often, but I think, man, like if I knew I had 10 years to live, I'd forget that shit. I'll just like say, yeah, forget that, man. I'm not interested in this crap.
But okay, so that's if you thought you had 10 years to live.
Yeah.
But you don't have 10. Assuming you don't, God willing, you don't have 10 years to live. You have more than that. What's stopping you from deleting this?
Right. I knew that question would come because that is the natural question. The natural question is, if you're saying that if you had 10 years to live, you'll stop doing this. Why don't you stop doing it now? That is the natural question to come. So forget that silly question, because that question is not yet. It's not yet. I think before I get to that question, I can tell you some other things I'd potentially stop doing if I knew I had 10 years to live, right? And
tell me.
And one of the things that I'd stop doing is probably I'd stop being horrible to my mum. If I'm honest, I'd stop being horrible to my mum. And I'm not that horrible to my mum, but I am. If anybody that knows me knows I'm sarcastic. I'm a sarcastic guy. And, my mum, she's a sensitive soul. She's sensitive. And sometimes it entertains me to unleash some sarcasm on her, And
man,
it doesn't.
Poor mum.
It doesn't go well for her, but my sisters laugh, and it makes me laugh, and it kind of entertains me for a minute. But I think if I knew I only had 10 years left, I'd probably tone the sarcasm down a bit. I'd really do my best in my day-to-day life anyway to try and tone it down and just be like, kind of like have responses like, oh, okay. Like,
oh, do you think that's better? Do you think that's?
Yeah.
You think that's? Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's better.
Do you think she'll appreciate that more?
She'd rather me. She would appreciate that more than me saying, "I don't understand what you're trying to say." You know what I mean? Are you all right, Mum? Are you okay? Like, what is this that you're talking to? Nonsense. You know, so
What's this breeze?
it's just all I can feel is air towards this way. Is, you know, I'm hearing noises, but it's not making much sense. I'm thinking I'm probably going to leave in a minute because, you know, I don't know, this air's too loud. But I'd probably stop doing that. And probably the last thing I'd stop doing on year 9 of the 10 years of being alive, on year 9, if I don't have a Ferrari, bro, I'd probably stop driving whatever fucking car I've got and just go steal a Ferrari. I'll just steal a Ferrari. I'll just go steal a Ferrari. I'll just go steal one.
Why don't you just rent one?
No,
why don't you rent one?
It doesn't matter. I've got 1 year
why?
left. Still, and then after I get caught, I'll spend 6 months in jail just to understand what it was like.
Wow. just for the culture, yeah, for the experience.
Just for the culture. You know, wow. I might as well try it out. Do you know what I mean?
Gosh.
What about you? Talk to me.
6 months to live, and you want to spend it in penitentiary.
All right, go on, why not?
Interesting.
Yeah, go on, why not? Have a go.
I think as you said, it's a difficult question. I think for me, top thing that came to mind was stop pressing snooze. The snooze button, that killer button that you press in it. I've had periods where I've got up at 5:30 to do a run, and quite consistently for a few weeks. That's consistent, and then it stops. But that time when I got up at 5:30, went for a run in the cold, fresh air going through your lungs, that felt good. And I think it might increase my years to live by 1 or 2 more years. So I won't just have 10 or 11 or 12. So that'd be one thing, because I think it's a bad habit to press snooze. Although I love a snooze button, and if it's a Sunday, then snooze, why not? And I'm not judging anyone that presses snooze. I still do it. So that's one thing. Second thing is I'll stop going to work. I just won't work. Why should I?
Fair.
10 years.
Nobody needs money. Forget your kid that needs to eat.
Forget that. Forget work. That's great. I'll just create a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just create a podcast and podcast every day.
Fair. Actually fair. To be fair, it makes sense. It does make sense.
Why? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I'll stop paying the bills.
Wait. Stop.
All bills.
Wait, bro. I don't think you know how long 10 years is. 10 years is a long time.
Listen, I remember when I was 23, like it was yesterday. So listen, it's going to go quickly. It'll go quick.
Bro, 10 years is
a lot of red letters.
Oh, you're so funny.
And then just to feel just to why not? Because I feel like bills shouldn't be paid. If you've got 10 years to live, should be paid. I feel like that should be, if I was going for prime minister, that's what that'd be a key sort of that'd be my manifesto. Like if you've got 10 years to live, we'll pay your water bill, electric bill, housing bill.
That's generally what state pension is.
Vote for me,
right?
No, state pension is shite.
Yeah, I know that. But the concept,
you can't pay any bill. The only bill you can pay is perhaps your EE bill. Maybe not EE. That's premium. Pay your Tesco's
mobile
club card mobile bill.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think the concept behind state pension is that you've done your service, you've paid taxes for 65, 75. God knows how many years it is anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Here you go. Here's some money to make sure that you don't die in the cold water, homeless.
Yeah. Here's money for your heating bill, but don't put your heating on
too much
because you won't be able to afford it with what we're giving you.
Yeah. What do you think this is? Handouts? You got NHS. What do you want? so
And don't go to NHS. Don't go to the hospital.
Don't go to the hospital. And you know what? If you had life insurance, potentially, if you die of natural causes, we'll find a way not to pay. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Of course.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
That's insurance.
I know you paid 40 grand into it over the course of your life, but sorry, you're dead now. Yeah, it got morbid real quick, didn't it?
Very quickly.
Super quick.
But I think, it's an interesting question. Yeah. And I'll be interested to see what other people think, like what they would do in their stop doing in their sort of final 10 years. And as you say, it's quite a long time.
Yeah.
Better go quickly.
Yeah.
And it's definitely is an easier question to say what you would start doing.
Yeah.
Which I think when I initially thought about the question, is like, but flip it on its head, because sometimes there are things that it's like New Year's resolutions are coming up, right?
Right.
January.
Yep.
It's like, I'm going to stop smoking.
Yep.
And it happens. I mean, I don't smoke, but 99% of people that smoke, it's on their New Year's resolutions, like guaranteed. It's that and going to the gym.
Yeah.
And then those are the two things that are
100%, 100%.
So, I think it's easier to say what you would start doing, and you might say, I want to start calling my mum more, or I want to start doing this and that. But to say what you stop doing is quite critical.
Yeah, and actually, I'd urge anybody who's listening to this to ask themselves that question. What would you stop doing? And then after that, ask themselves, why don't I stop doing that now? Which you tried to pose to me, and I was like, I deflected. Did you see the deflection?
Teflon.
Yeah. You can't pierce me with those questions. Are you crazy? But actually, it's the natural question that comes. Like if you knew that you had 10 years to live, you would stop doing X. Why don't you stop doing it now? It's that it's something that's doesn't quite sit right with your psyche somewhere. What's to stop you doing it now? And actually, there's no answer that's actually sufficient beyond I can't be asked.
Wow.
Or
no, just get the hell up.
No. Let me take that back. I'm going to take that back. It's not that I can't be asked. It's that I feel that I got more than 10 years. That's the answer. That's the only answer that will make it valid as to why you're not doing it.
Mañana.
Sí, mañana.
But one saying is, the best time to plant a tree was 1,000 years ago or 100. The next best time is now. And so with all these like New Year's resolutions, whether it's starting something or stopping something, just do it now. Like rather than wait for this one day where really and truly it doesn't necessarily, it's arbitrary.
Yeah. I mean, we've all got it in our minds, right? This kind of magical day when everything comes together and we ride off into the sunset, or our child is has found a perfect job and marries a perfect person, or you marry the perfect person and everything is amazing. But the reality is that day is it doesn't come. Like it doesn't come. It's made. You have to make that day with your own effort.
Fine.
Do you know what I mean? That you make that day. It's not just I hope to wish that this day happens. It's more like you make it over the course of time. And when you make it, it's not magical. It's not magical at all. It's effort. You did it. You put the effort in to get that reward, and actually in reality, when you start to be a bit more like realistic with your view of life, then you start to kind of understand that this is a work ethic. Do you know what I mean? This is something that you got to put effort in to get the rewards you want out, like a Ferrari. I like Ferraris. You
vroom, vroom.
Vroom, 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 vroom. I'll drive a Ferrari. don't need a wife. I'm good.
Just one man in a Ferrari.
Just
That's all
one
he
man.
needs.
Just one man. Just one man.
On the topic of quotes, just kind of like finish off.
Yep.
I think you mentioned earlier about people choosing to listen to podcasts that talk about gossip and etc. It's not something that I do, whatever. But one quote that came to mind was I think it's from Eleanor Roosevelt, which is which I really love, is great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people.
Yeah. And look, I think on that note, I think we should end this.
Boom.